And welcome into episode 17 of Fantasy Baseball Camp. It's a light attendance here at the camp. We've got myself and BNB underscore Coach Favorite. Will, how you doing tonight?
Man, doing good. Excited to talk through a few things, but let's just keep my team out of it. We're 2-5, not doing too hot, so let's not mention my team. We'll talk about other options here, and
Oh,
then we'll be all good.
it's such a headache year with pitching. Such a headache
Oh, I
year.
know. It's so unreliable. Even some of the top guys are getting hit for 5 runs, 4 runs every other start, every three starts. Normally guys you can depend on to never do that. It seemed like even they're falling victim to it this year. So it's probably thinner than it's been that I can recall.
Yeah, and the top names aren't necessarily the top names. I think in the top 15 are names you recognize. But Mitch Keller, you don't expect to see in the top five. Joe Ryan, Nathan Eovaldi, those are two of the top five right there. Or I'm sorry, three of the top five. That's just names you just don't expect.
No, definitely not. If you would see them in the preseason rankings, I'm sure they were nowhere near that. Joe
If you would
Ryan,
have,
maybe,
yeah,
but
you see someone drafting Joe Ryan as a first, or second pitcher to their team, you're laughing like you suck. And
now they're laughing.
yes, it's so hard to find the pitching. But so episode 17, it is May 25th as we're recording this, and we're getting ready already. It's Thursday night. You typically are getting ready for your weekend, but you should already be looking at your week ahead so that you can get those waiver wire ads ahead of others, as well as in case you miss. In leagues that you don't have emergency ads Monday mornings, if you put in a waiver wire Sunday night and someone else claims them, you're kind of out of luck if you either have an injury there or just needed a better player. So Thursday and Friday is not too early to be looking at fixing your team for the next week.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say go ahead and look ahead at some of the matchups and guys on the waiver, see who they got coming up, and go ahead and put those claims in.
Yeah, look at those matchups of players who are hot this week in the first 4 days, and if they've played good teams, look at their matchup for the next week. You know what to line up. Um, so, Will, do you have a guy that you're already looking at in preparation for next week that either has a good matchup or is just hot hitting?
Yeah, I do. So you'll have to hear me out on this one. I know you've already, you went with this guy earlier in the year and he let you down a little bit, but I'm gonna go with Jared Schuster. You know,
The Schuster.
yeah, my Braves homer pick here, but I think you liked him in the spring, right? He had a real good spring coming in.
Man,
Looked like he was going to be.
the guy had a 1.71 ERA in 20 innings with 19 strikeouts. So he's a first round pick by the Braves, I think in 2021. So he's got a pedigree. And of
Yeah,
course, the Braves, being in a league with a bunch of Braves fans, he has more value. You thought maybe he would not necessarily be a Spencer Strider, but the Braves always figure out to work guys in. So, yeah,
yeah,
but I haven't seen what he's been doing lately. I
yeah,
gave up on him after spring training, and he came to the MLB and just walked and walked and walked.
yeah. That's where he started out rough, was just with the walks his first few starts, but they sent him back down. Looks like he maybe worked on a few things. So he had his first start back last week against the Mariners. The Mariners have some good bats in there, and he went for 27.5 points. He pitched 6 innings, only one hit, one earned run, one walk, and seven
One
Ks. So,
walk.
yeah. So he cut it down tremendously. Only one hit. You got Julio, Kellenic, Teoscar, Ty France. They got a few good bats there. So, to me, that's an encouraging sign to cut the walks down to one against those guys. And, 27.5 points is very good. So,
Yeah, the Braves really could rely on him. I think because they don't have too many options. I would think he has a leash, a little bit more
yeah.
of a leash than he did to start the year.
Yeah, hence the game I went to. I went to the Braves game last weekend where they faced the Mariners, and we threw a bullpen game. The
Gotta
classic
love it.
Jesse Chavez on. So that didn't work out. So like you said, we're thin. So I think you get a good leash. Plus, he faces the A's this week. Worst team in baseball.
Oh,
He's an excellent streamer option if you need a pitcher. It's not a two-start week for him. I think he throws on Wednesdays where he's scheduled right now, but anytime you get a chance to go throw someone against the A's, I would take the odds there. There's always that chance it could blow up, but with this team, it's very unlikely. You see more success against the A's fantasy wise from a pitching perspective than you do any other team. So,
I mean, when you're pitching against a team that only has 10 wins, you probably have a good chance of getting a win out of it and getting that extra 7 points and probably quality start. Was
hmm
quality start 3 points, right?
yeah, which can make a difference. I'm speaking from experience. I lost by a point and a half or a half point this week, so quality start can make the difference. And with the Braves' offense behind him, I'd certainly take a flyer on him against the A's this week for sure. Especially after that first start back, looks like he tweaked some things. So
Yeah, if you look at his monthly splits, he pitched in 2 games in April and 2 games in May. In April, he had a 2.42 whip. That's awful. Where in May, he's got 0.64 in his 2 starts. Only 3 walks to 10 strikeouts to 4 hits in 11 innings. So maybe he figured something out in the minor leagues. And maybe this is really, like you said, facing Oakland, a confidence booster that he needs to keep rolling. And that's what the Braves need, a fourth starter to keep
yeah,
things rolling.
yeah, and I would say you don't even need the elite production from him. Just something similar to what they've done with Bryce Elder. Just go out there and try to get you 6 innings, quality start, hope for a win. That
Yeah.
sort of thing.
So Schuster, I mean, he's probably widely available in most leagues. I think in CBS leagues, he's only 35% owned. I think for this week, what do you think? He needs to be owned much more he needs to be streamed this week much more.
Yeah, I would say so. And if, like you said, coming off that 27.5 point game against the Mariners, if he comes out and scores 20 plus again against the A's, I would say that's going to probably start shooting up if he can continue that. And with the Braves offense behind him, he's got some room to give a few there if he needed to.
Yeah. I mean, he's much better pick than more widely owned Dane Dunning right now. He faces um, Seattle for next week. He's 75% owned. Who else is closely owned? Michael Lorenzen of Detroit Tigers. He's 48% owned. I talked about him last week. Um, he faces Texas next week. So guys
That's
who
a
are similarly owned of Schuster. Schuster is, I'd say, the guy to go with to string with.
Yeah, I would certainly say so this week, just simply on the matchup. Lorenzen, you said he's against the Rangers and they can swing it, so I don't know that I would go with
Probably
him
the
at
top
all.
offense in baseball. Yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't, given Lorenzen's background and kind of bouncing back and forth from the pen and all around. I wouldn't ride with that. I'd ride with Schuster over Lorenzen for sure.
yeah. So a guy I've got listed for next week, and really just going forward, he's more widely owned. I'm going to throw him out there. Is Drew Smiley, a guy who's been injured for the last how 3 years? I want to say, just never staying healthy, is putting together quite a good season. At this moment, he's got a 2.93 ERA. He just beat the Mets, 5 innings, 4 hits. Before that, he beat the Astros. Did he beat them or did he lose? I don't think he got the loss.
He
He did.
did. Yeah, he did lose. Or actually, no, he got a no decision. The Cubs ended up losing, but he got a no decision.
That's right. That's right. That was the Cubs lost that one on a walk off. That was painful.
Yeah,
So,
six
anyways,
innings, 1 run run though against the
yeah,
Astros. That's good.
against a good Astros team who doesn't have who's Altuve back? Was Altuve back yet? Is he back?
I have no idea actually.
I'm pretty sure he is. I'm pretty sure he came back last Friday.
Last No, but
So
looking at Smiley's point spread, he's got several weeks over 15 plus, and even quite a few more over 20 plus. And coming from a guy who's probably going to be like your 3, 4, 5 in your fantasy rotation, that's pretty dang good.
yeah,
From them.
over the last 14 days, which is about 3 starts for a fantasy starting pitcher, he is the one, two, three, four, fifth top scoring starting pitcher over the last 3 starts for starters. To top that list, of course, is Nathan Eovaldi and Michael Kopech, who have had unreal runs the last 3 games, both with 22 plus strikeouts.
Yeah, that's quite the run there. Hard to beat that, but
Yeah. But another guy I wanted to mention who is not as owned because Drew Smiley is 88% owned, so he's most likely not available in your league. In 10-team leagues, he might be. 12 teams, he's probably more owned. But a less owned guy I want to talk about is Ben Lively. He was a former prospect back in 2015 with the Phillies. So the guy's been around, but and man, has he been around. He went from drafted by the Reds in 2013, traded to the Phillies in 2014 for Marlon Byrd, and then he was claimed off waivers by the Royals, and then from the Royals he was traded to the Diamondbacks. But he was only with the Diamondbacks for 2 months before he left in 2019 and went to Korea, went to the KBO to pitch, where he pitched during the pandemic year 2020 and then 2021. But 2021, he ended up getting injured and was released. So there he is now, finally back in 2022. He signed with the team that drafted him, the Reds. So that long story to get to Ben Lively in 2023. Why are we looking to add him? He's only 7% owned. He just moved into the rotation. If you look at the end of his 2022, he had a 4 ERA in 18 starts in AAA. But to start the year 2023, he has a 2.33 ERA in AAA through 4 games started. And now that he's come up to the majors and moved into the rotation, he's got 2 starts in which he has scored 34 points spread between the two. Did I say that right? Spread between the two?
yeah,
Combined. Combined. Um, 8 Ks in both of them in 6 innings for both starts. Only 5 hits against St. Louis, a hot hitting St. Louis team, and then 2 hits against the New York Yankees. So
only three total walks too.
yeah. So maybe Ben Lively's a guy who has, after being a journeyman through all the teams, never quite getting his opportunity to stick in the rotation and do his thing. His baseball savant numbers look great. I see just solid red. I see a walk rate in the 90 percentile. I see an X batting average in 87th percentile, average exit velocity in the 90 percentile. So he's getting soft contact. He's not getting hard hit. So of course, I think his chase rate. I'm not a baseball savant expert by any means, but his chase rate. He's not being chased a lot, but he's getting those strikeouts. Anyways, what I'm saying is 7% owned. If you're in a deep league, Ben Lively is a guy to look at. He's getting results against good teams rather than the Oakland A's or the Kansas City Royals. So I would watch his matchups coming up. Actually, I'm not sure who even faces next week. I didn't even look at that. I was looking long term at this guy with the Reds, which isn't probably a great.
Let's project him against Boston. It's his upcoming starts 5:30 against Brian Bello in Boston, and then Milwaukee. He's got Adrian Hauser on 6-4. That's what it's projecting.
Who is that 6-4 against? Who's Adrian Hauser
Uh,
on?
Milwaukee, and he's actually having a solid start. I think he's got a 2.25 ERA. Um,
So not great matchups there, being Boston and Milwaukee. So
yeah,
maybe rather than adding this guy and starting him this next week, I would, if he does well against Boston, I'd add him.
yeah,
I
because
think
they've been hitting
he'd be
it,
a hot ad. Yes, Boston can hit.
and like you said, he's already pitched well against two very solid offensive teams. So, like you said, I keep an eye on it, like you mentioned. See how he does against Boston, and then
I might
again
actually
against
be at that
Milwaukee.
game. I might actually be at that game in Boston next Tuesday.
Oh yeah, that's right. I would if I'm you. I'm definitely going. Scout some
It's
things out.
I don't know. It's Brian Bello versus Ben Lively or James Paxton on that Wednesday night. That's the either Tuesday or Wednesday night. I'm going.
I was gonna say Sale throws Thursday. I was just looking at that earlier,
Yeah,
so you'll just miss him.
that's too bad. And let's see. Nope. Okay, never mind. All right. So let's see. Um, I don't have anything else. Do you have another pitcher or a hitter for us to be watching or adding?
Yeah, so I'll give you a hitter. I was looking at is Lane Thomas from the Nationals. He's eligible in outfield. He's got 135 points on the year. He's got 3 weeks that are all 25 plus. But he's really raking this year in May. So just in May, he's got batting 333 with all 7 of his homers coming this month and 14 of his 25 RBIs. So he's really swinging it well. He's hot right now. Will he continue it? You don't know. He may be a guy, like you said, you want to look at him, look at his next few weeks, see, who he's going against pitching wise, see if you might want to stream him if you need something.
Yeah,
But he's hot. And a lot of these guys, like this on your waiver wire are going to be up and down, with what's available at this point in the season. So you kind of want to pick who is hot at the time, I'd say.
yeah. Talk about hot. Lane Thomas in the month of May. His batting line is 330, 366, 636 slugging. So that's good for a over one. That's good for a nearly exact 1,000 OPS. Absolutely killing it in the month of May through 93 at bats, which is a pretty good sample size. I'm not going to say it's large. I'm not going to say it's small either, though. 7 home runs too. He didn't have any home runs in April. And Lane Thomas, right, has at least some kind of pedigree. Some kind of pedigree, doesn't he?
You talking about coming up like through the minors? I'm not really sure.
Okay,
I can't
yeah,
remember his
I think I
specific
see here.
pedigree.
Yeah, 2019, he was with the Cardinals, and he was their ninth overall prospect. So that I think that says something for being a highly rated Cardinals prospect, because the Cardinals
And he's
just pump
still,
guys.
yeah, and he's not, I mean, he's on the older side. He's only 27. It's not like he's 30, 31, and just kind of starting to figure it out. So there's still some room for him to improve, I would think. But looking at his matchups to start next week, he's got the Dodgers. So he's got it's Bobby Miller, isn't it? The guy they just called up who threw really well
Yeah, yeah.
for the Dodgers. Yeah. So he's
Is
got
he a righty or
him on
lefty?
Monday. He is a righty, right?
I think so.
He's got him, so with rookie pitching, it's been one extreme or the other. You got like the Bryce Millers who've been dominating from a rookie perspective, and then you get the Gavin Stones that I have, for example, who have been called up and been horrible. So you never know. He's got a rookie pitcher, Gonsolin, and then Syndergaard to start the week. Syndergaard's been horrible. I think y'all talked about him before, maybe last week. I think Wes or
Yes, we
someone
did.
touched on him. Like all his stuff is down, all his numbers are down. So starting off against the Dodgers, you're like, but with a rookie pitcher and Syndergaard on cue, it's not bad.
Something to look at when you're looking, like we talk about matchups and seeing what team these guys are facing. If they're facing good pitching, look at the splits too, righty lefty. Because if I pull up Lane Thomas's splits, they're huge. The guy
And
has his slugging is nearly cut in half. Well, I wouldn't say almost cut in half, lefty versus righty. He still hits home runs, but he hits for a lot less average. Against lefties, he's batting 357, 429, 625, where against righties, 266, 307, 391. So if you see he's going to face 2 or 3 lefties, Lane Thomas is your guy.
yeah, that and as well as the home and away splits. I know you've talked that before. Depending upon home and away splits, what stadiums they'll be in. As we talked, some are better hitters ballparks, but
Mm-hmm.
these are to start the week. They're out in LA, so that may be something to check as well.
Yeah,
But
all things you want to look at when you're on the waiver wire. Someone could be hot. It's because they played 3-4 games in Colorado. Hey, he hit 3 home runs this week. Yeah, he played 4 games in Colorado. That's why.
I've been there, seen that.
All right, so another guy that I got a hitter for you, and it is Seiya Suzuki. Um, didn't quite have the great starts of the year. One, he was slowed by injury. He didn't start on opening day, and his injury was an oblique, which really is something that can affect hitters. But in his last 20 games, Seiya Suzuki has 5 home runs. Is crushing the ball. His average exit velocity is in the 86th percentile. His hard hit rate percentage is 88%. In his past 50 plate appearances, if you could see this graph of his ex-WOBA, is just it's like you're making money on this stock if you're looking at this graph. If you know what I'm saying, everything is on the increase, on the incline, and he was a highly regarded hitter in Japan. His final year in Japan. Oh, I lost my note here. Okay. His final year in Japan, 2021, he had a 317, 433, 636 line. I mean, 600 plus slugging. Usually you want 345. That's MVP type numbers, you know? So 636 over 134 games is fantastic. 38 home runs. He did that for 6 years, 5, 6, 7 years. So he was no joke last year. He was injured. It usually takes guys a good while to adjust. Otani took, I'm not comparing him to Otani, but Otani took a year or two to adjust. The guy went for $1 in our league in 2021, 2022. So that goes to show you that Otani was looking like was not looking like the Otani that he is now.
Yeah, it may take him some time to get adjusted to things over here. Figure it out. He's only 28. Yeah, 28. So like, it's not like
Yes,
you said. It's not like he's on the other end of that. And I didn't know the home runs. Like he has 6 on the year and 5 in his last 10 games. Is that right? Am I looking at
five
that
in his
right?
last 20. 5 in his last 20.
5, 20.
He did have a multi home run game and then back to back games where he hit home runs. So like 2 games, he had 3 of those 5.
Yeah,
But he's smoking the ball.
he's got 5 home runs since May 14th actually. So yeah,
He's 81% owned, so he is available in 21%, 19% of your leagues out there.
yep,
So someone to look at in the month of April, he had a similar number of at bats, only batted 254 with a 373 slugging. The month of May, he's batting 310, 405, 606. So again, another guy who is putting it on. Which a little interesting split, lefties versus righties. Lefties, he's batting 400, but he's only got 1 home run. First righties, he's got 5 home runs, but he's only batting 242. So maybe he got a little lucky with who he was facing, but still, this is a guy who can hit home runs, hit the ball hard for you, and hit guys in. He usually bats about fourth, fifth for the Cubs, and that's behind Nico Horner, Dansby Swanson, who are on base machines, stolen base machines. So a lot of RBI chances for Seiya Suzuki. Sorry, I had to burp. I muted my mic for that one. So, one player I wanted to mention as a player to watch, Kyle Harrison of the Giants. He is the number 15 overall pitching prospect in baseball, and we've seen the Bryce Millers come up. We've seen the Taj Bradleys, the Tanner Bibees. Kyle Harrison could be that next guy. I say that because in AAA they've increased his pitch count. He's the top left-handed pitcher in all of baseball. He's coming. So if you have a slot for a speculative ad, Kyle Harrison might be a guy to add and hold on to. That could make an immediate impact. He is a top of the rotation type of guy. I'm not saying maybe immediately, but in his career, he has the stuff to be a top of the rotation guy. So a name to watch. He's not a nobody. He's a top prospect in all of baseball. 15 overall. So
yeah. And I would agree to watching. some of those guys in AAA right now, as thin as pitching is, like keep an
Right.
eye, like you said, on some of those guys who are hot. What does their MLB team look like? Is their roster or is their rotation full, or is there a chance they get called up? And you can find some of this stuff, online to see who's next in line, who's on the verge of getting a call, that sort of thing and it's worth something to pay attention to. As bad as pitching is, I would say.
Right. Yep. And San Francisco's been playing hot ball lately, so maybe they want to keep rolling. Right now, the rotation is Logan Webb, Alex Cobb, Anthony Discalfani, and Alex Wood and Sean Manaea. Um, I don't know. I can't speak to exactly how all those guys are doing. I think Webb, Cobb, and Descafani are doing pretty good. I don't think Manaea is doing all that good, and I don't think Alex Wood's doing all that good. Manaea would be a great bullpen piece.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Desclafani, Cobb, and Webb are set in stone pretty much, but the other guys could have shorter leashes potentially.
Yeah, I, maybe you'll see that mystery injury come up and give him a shot. It is June. June is usually, I think, the time where it's not early call ups. But anyways, we can get
Yeah.
we're getting deep into prospects, and this is waiver wire. And I think you got any more guys for us, Will, or are we ready to close out episode 17?
I'll give you one more brief one. Not gonna talk long on it, but it's just something to check. Tristan McKenzie, I would check to see if he's available in your leagues. I looked and he's 90% in CBS, so he may not be, but it's worth checking. Some of these guys who've been injured from opening day that are on the verge of coming back, guys like that, just check to see if someone dropped him. Got tired of waiting because he went 3 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts in his first rehab start. So he's
Yeah,
close to coming back. 500-point pitcher last year. Just check on guys like that. It can't hurt. Just take
yeah.
just a second to look them up.
There's such a thing as IL slots. Um, and if you have empty ones, it's a good strategy just to look at, hey, who's hurt and about to come back. That's a way to stash players.
Yep. Some people utilize it, some don't, and it could help you out in the long run if they're there.
Yeah, that's a great mention there, Will, because he's close to coming back, and he's a
Yeah.
great fantasy pitcher, good strikeout pitcher. Was great last year. Well, all right. Well, if that's it, well, this has been episode 17 waiver wire. We're getting ready for week 8 of fantasy baseball. It's never too early. This is today's Friday that this episode is being released. Whether you're listening to us on a different day, it's never too early to be getting ready for the next week of fantasy baseball. You never know when injuries happen. You never know when someone else picks up your claim. But yeah, this episode 17. Shoot us a message if you like our picks, if you have other considerations or other guys that you're eyeing, and we'll gladly discuss them with you. For us at the Fantasy Baseball Camp, I'm Michael. That's Will. You guys have a good night.